The immediate aftermath of a business failure or bankruptcy is often accompanied by a crushing sense of silence and disorientation, which is exactly what Albert Camus described as the feeling of the absurd striking a man in the face on a street corner. To recover from financial ruin, you must first understand that this feeling of emptiness is not a sign of your personal inadequacy, but rather the result of the fundamental confrontation between your human desire for order, success, and meaning, and the unreasonable silence of the universe that refuses to guarantee those things. When you build a business, you are attempting to impose logic and structure onto a chaotic world, and when that structure collapses, you are left staring into the void, which can lead to despair or the temptation to commit what Camus called philosophical suicide by hoping for a miraculous external salvation or adopting a victim mentality to explain away the chaos. However, the most powerful way to bounce back is to reject these escapes and instead embrace the absurdity of your situation with a spirit of revolt, realizing that if the universe has no inherent meaning and no destiny written in the stars, then your failure is not a moral judgment on your soul, but simply a random event in an indifferent world. This realization opens the door to what Camus termed absurd freedom, which is the liberation that comes when you accept that, because nothing is guaranteed and there is no grand script you must follow, you are absolutely free to reinvent yourself and create your own meaning from scratch. Bankruptcy often strips away the labels and social roles you once clung to, such as CEO or millionaire, and while this loss is painful, it clears the slate and allows you to see that you are not bound by your past, your degree, or your previous identity. You might have spent 10 years building a specific company, and now that it is gone, you might feel stuck or lost, but Camus teaches that you are free to delete those old stories because no one is watching and judging you in a cosmic sense. You can start over, redefine your purpose, and choose a completely new path, whether that means launching a new venture, changing careers entirely, or simply finding joy in a humbler existence, because your life belongs to you and not to the expectations of society or the economy. Freedom is nothing but a chance to be better, and you can view your financial collapse not as a tragedy, but as a test of your resilience and an opportunity to prove that you can survive and rebuild stronger than before. To sustain the energy required for this rebuilding process, you must adopt the mindset of Sisyphus, the absurd hero who was condemned to push a massive boulder up a mountain for eternity, only to watch it roll back down every time he reached the summit. Your business failure is the rock rolling back down to the bottom of the hill, and to the outside observer, this looks like futility, but Camus argues that the moment Sisyphus turns back toward the plain to retrieve his rock is the moment he becomes superior to his fate, because he is conscious of his situation and chooses to continue anyway. You must learn to find your happiness not in the distant goal of recovering your millions or retiring, but in the daily struggle and the exertion of pushing the boulder itself, because the struggle toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. If you pin all your hope on a future financial outcome, you will be trapped in anxiety and despair, but if you learn to love the grind, the problem-solving, and the act of creation for its own sake, you become invincible because your satisfaction is derived from your own defiance and action rather than the external reward. One must imagine the entrepreneur happy even in the midst of bankruptcy, finding dignity in the refusal to be broken by the indifference of the market. Furthermore, you should adopt the attitude of the absurd conqueror, a character type described by Camus who knows that all victories are temporary and that every empire eventually turns to dust, yet chooses to act, build, and conquer with intense passion anyway. The conqueror chooses the sword of action over the cross of hope, fully aware that fate wins in the end, but deciding to play the game of life at a high level simply for the thrill and dignity of the game itself. This mindset removes the paralyzing fear of failure because you have already accepted that failure is a possibility and that nothing lasts forever, which paradoxically gives you the courage to take the massive risks necessary to build wealth again. You stop asking, why me, and start saying, so what, realizing that if you lose a deal or a fortune, it is just part of the absurdity of life, and you are free to shrug it off and start again with a sense of playful rebellion. By living without appeal to a higher power or a guaranteed future, you focus all your energy on the present moment, maximizing your resources and your efforts right now, which is the only way to generate true momentum and eventually create new success. Ultimately, recovering from business failure through absurdism is about transforming your suffering into a rule of life and refusing to be defeated by the silence of the world. You acknowledge that the world is chaotic and unfair, where bad things happen to good people and hard work does not always guarantee success, but instead of letting this make you bitter, you use it as fuel to rebel against the condition of poverty and powerlessness. You realize that you are the master of your days, and even if you are pushing a rock that will one day roll down again, the act of pushing is your rebellion, your purpose, and your joy. You become a person who lives with passion and defiance, creating your own value in a meaningless world, and in doing so, you not only recover your wealth, but you gain a profound, unshakable strength that no market crash can ever take away from you.